Brauhaus, Riegele, Aechtes Dunkel.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I've got one here today. No, not Van Gogh. I've got one from the Brauhaus Riegele from Augsberg in Bavaria, in Germany. And it's their Aechtes Dunkel. Aechtes Dunkel, in case you're wondering what that means, it means real dark. And this, of course, is a German Dunkel, which is a bottom fermented dark lager, which contains double roasted malts. And I like what this brewery do. I've tried their Pilsner, and being a Bavarian brewer, I expected the Pilsner to be like a Bavarian Pilsner. You know, it's a fair assumption, but it tasted like a really good North German Pilsner. Now, I love North German Pilsners. In fact, last night I was drinking Veltins. I'm not sure, I think that's North German, but that was really good stuff. And I got it quite cheaply as well. And 3 cans of it, and it was just going down so easily. That's a really nice fridge filler, the Veltins stuff. I've reviewed it on the channel. But getting back to my point about Riegele, their Pilsner is really good. I've reviewed that. If you look on the channel, have a look at that. This is their dark, or their Dunkel. Now, Dunkel is probably my favourite style of, I've mentioned this before, of German beer. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Helles. I really do like Helles. But if it's a choice between a Helles and a Dunkel, I will always go for the Dunkel. If it's a choice between a Weizen or a Dunkel Weiss, it's going to be the Dunkel Weiss. And of course, Doppelbox and Icebox, etc. are always going to be number one for me. But this one is, as I say, from a good brewery. They're based in Augsberg, which is in Bavaria. It's just up a bit from Munich, if you like. What I find really interesting about this brewery, now, as you probably might know or might not know, I'm really into my Second World War history. And I've mentioned this on the other beer review about Riegele as well. They were around, obviously around during the time of the Second World War. But after the Second World War, there was a German fighter race who flew FW-190s during World War II, and his name was Josef Pips Priller. And after the war, when he was released from prisoner of war camp, I should say, he married into the family that owns the Riegele brewery family, and he became brewmaster of this brewery. So there is a bit of history there in terms of an infamous bit of history or famous bit of history, whatever way you want to look at it, but that's most memorable for me. Anyway, as I say, I like what they did with the Pilsner. Let's see if their Dunkel is as good as the Pilsner. Well, it's a 500ml bottle. It is 4.9% and it is a dark beer. There is no brew sheet on the website, unfortunately, but it naturally conforms to the Reinheitsgebot. It says on here since 1386. Now, I think that's a bit ambiguous because I've sort of researched it and I've come to the conclusion that the real date is 1884 for this brewery in particular, but I think the site was used before that. So that's where they're getting the since 1380, what is it, 1386? Yeah, that's what I said. And obviously it's got the Golden Horse emblem on there. I think this at one point was called the Golden Horse Brewery. I think that had been going since 1386. This is what I'm getting this from memory from the last bit Pilsner that I reviewed. But yeah, it looks decent. It's a Dunkel. It's from Bavaria. Can it go wrong? Oh yes, I've had a few bad ones from Bavaria. Let's see if this is one or if it's really good. Right, let's crack this mofo open. I've been down the vets all day with a dog. He is not well. Little Bob, the Yorkshire Terrier. He has got a lesion on his spine and he's in a lot of pain, and he's got a stomach infection as well. And he's not a well little doggy, unfortunately. Percy's all right. He keeps tormenting him, but yeah, the other one is he's not well. And they've just relieved me of a load of money to treat him, and he's still not fixed, so I am going to be double skint for the next couple of months. Good job I stocked up on the beer when I did. It will be shopping in Lidl's from now on for the foreseeable. There is the cap. Wow, autofocus did what it's supposed to do. Fucking hell, wonders will never cease. There it is in the glass. Very nice, chestnut brown colour. What are we getting on the nose? Oh, lovely. I love them sweet roasted malts that you get from Bavaria. There is a distinct sweet nuttiness that you get with German beers, and certainly German Dunkel beers, and I absolutely adore that style of aroma and flavour. This is going to sound a bit weird, but I could sit here sniffing this all day. Don't get me wrong, I'd much rather be drinking it, but I absolutely love it. I ain't too keen on the froth on my nose, but yeah, it's just a ton of sweet, nutty malt. And that's about it, really. It does smell good, though. This is just looking the part, smelling the part. Let's see if it tastes the part. Prost, as they say in Germany. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, that is really good. Oh, there's almost like a cherry style flavour to it on the finish, but wow, it's lovely. That is absolutely gorgeous. So the big thing of this is the malt, obviously, and it's roasted malt. There's a sweet roasted malt to it. It's almost like toasted bread, if you can imagine that, toasted brown bread. But there's like a very slight and subtle cherry overtone on this that I'm getting, and there's a nuttiness to it as well, like sweet nuts, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It is exactly what I'd expect from a Dunkel. They've got everything right here. It's really good. And I should have mentioned this in the intro on this, but the brewery, they're interesting in that they do the brewery tours and stuff like that. They brew quite a lot of beers. They brew their own special beers as well. But they actually do brewing courses as well, which I think is really good. And I can't think of a British brewer that does that offhand. I mean, there may be some, but to actually be taught how to brew beer by brewers of this calibre, I think is an excellent touch. Really good. I should actually investigate about that. Well, maybe not. You know, me and homebrew probably would not get along. I know the missus would go absolutely mental, and I know Percy, he'd fucking break in and try and drink it. Let's have another go. Oh, it's lovely. It's really good. I am getting that distinct sweet cherry style flavour on the finish. Now, I know for a fact they haven't added cherries or anything like that to it, but I can detect that, and I don't know where that's coming from. It could be a mixture of the yeast and the way the malts have been roasted, but whatever it is, it's like nutty sweet cherries with brown toasted bread on the finish. I mean, if that doesn't sound nice to you, then I don't know what does. This is really good. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some fantastic Dunkel beers out there, and as I say, it's my favourite style. But this is a really good one, I have to say. Oh, it's so easy drinking as well. Very well balanced. Flavours are big, but they're not overpowering. They're just right. The finish is really good. It lasts a long time. This is the perfect temperature I'm drinking it at. It's chilled, but it's not chilled enough to stifle any of them flavours. And I am absolutely loving this. This is fantastic. I really do recommend this. So what's the verdict on Aechtes Dunkel from Riegele, or Brauhaus Riegele from Augsberg? Yeah, it's fantastic. That is an absolutely outstanding Dunkel. Now, there are some good ones out there. The Hacker-Shaw Dunkel is an amazing Dunkel for me, and the Alt-Bayerisch Dunkel is probably my favourite. I'm just debating this probably isn't as good as the Inga, but it isn't far off. And believe me, if it was a choice of this or a Helles, I would be going for this all day long. This is really good. I do like this. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Now, this is going to be a cliche, I know, and people are going to say, "Oh, every time you try a Bavarian beer, you give it 10 out of 10." I don't. That's not true. I have tasted some really bad beers from Bavaria, the Tuka stuff being the prime example. I'm not sure whether I put up the Helles. I'm not sure what order I put it up, but I'll put up the Helles, and that was really disappointing. And that got a very, very low mark indeed. And it went down the sink. And that was really unusual because they're, as I always say when I talk about the Doppelbock, their Bayervater was probably one of the best. But the Helles was absolutely fucking shocking. It was so sulphurous. You do get, sometimes you do get that, what I perceive as being sulphur in Bavarian beers. Sometimes it really does work, especially in Helles's, it does work. But if you go overboard on it, it is not nice at all. And that went way over the top on it. But no trace of that there, no nasties at all. This is a fantastic beer. It's really good. As I say, when you brew beer in Bavaria, you've got to be top of your game, because if you're crap, people will not buy it. They're used to good beer there, and you know, if you're not up to scratch, then you will go bust at a rate of knots. But yeah, I really do recommend this. I got this from Beer Sniffers. Now, the price, I have here a piece of paper. What have we got? Riegele Aechtes Dunkel. That was £3.81. Now, you can pay £3.81 for a very fruity craft beer, 330ml can maybe. Probably a little bit less than a Brewdog 440ml can. I will tell you for a fact that Brewdog don't brew anything as good as that. And that's not me knocking Brewdog. They just don't. I know they don't. And whether they're capable or not, I don't know. They have no intention of brewing a top quality Dunkel lager. So, to be honest, you're not going to get my money, Brewdog. Now, you can argue, and I've had this on the channel, people saying to me, "Oh, you should be supporting British brewers." So, well, if we weigh this up, Brewdog are a British brewer. And if it's a choice of me having to, I know this is a fucking hypothetical question, but if it's a choice of me having to support a brewer that brews shit beer and forego drinking stuff like this, then I ain't going to do it. Because I am, as I say, I've just forked out over 500 quid for the dog, and you know, money is not fucking growing on trees around the old fucking oil drum in the garden of England that I live in. But if I'm going to buy a beer, I want it to be good, and if I'm going to buy it to review it, I want you to drink good beer as well. And you know, if it's a case of me having to buy beer from Europe when British brewers are struggling, I'm not going to say I don't care, because it's not true. I've got a Zoom meeting after this with a couple of mates. I've got a fridge full of Timothy Taylor Bolt Maker and Shepherd Neame India Pale Ale. I got it from the Morrisons up the road. That is going to be perfectly adequate for what I want. They're two fantastic beers, and they will be my session beers all day long, because they're cheap and I can get them up the road. And yeah, I will do my bit to support British brewers, but I'm not going to not review German beer. I'm not going to review Belgian beer in these times, because I don't see why I should. I like beer. I like good beer, and I'm going to drink good beer, and it's my money, and I will spend it how I want. And if I'm not going to support brewers like Brewdog, and I'm going to support Belgian or German brewers, then so be it. You know my views on Brewdog. They're not my favourite brewery. I don't think they're going to go bust, to be honest. So that's why I'm not buying Brewdog beer. There you go. And remember, beer is working class champagne.